My wife spent more and more time with the same Uber driver. I thought nothing of it. Until the night I opened the car door and caught them red-handed. What followed was a whirlwind of lies, breakdowns, and betrayal. This is how I exposed everything and took back control. Let me start by saying, I never imagined I'd be here, writing on Reddit about my imploding marriage. But I guess that's what happens when you think everything's normal until you find your wife tangled up in the backseat of someone else's car. I'm 36, she's 34. We've been married 7 years. No kids, not for lack of trying, but because we both agreed we weren't quite ready. That's what she always said anyway. My wife, Samantha, not her real name, works in HR for a mid-sized tech company. I work from home doing IT consulting. We have a decent life, nice apartment, no debt, 2 incomes. Our schedules are pretty flexible, but she always preferred to take a rideshare to and from work, claiming she hated driving in the morning. I didn't think much of it. Seemed practical. Safer even. She said she liked being able to just sit and relax on the way, catch up on emails, scroll through Pinterest, whatever. But here's the thing. She started mentioning Jalen a lot. At first in passing, like, Jalen picked me up again today. Or, Jalen had the funniest story this morning. I honestly thought she was just being friendly. She's the chatty type. Always has been. I'm the quieter one. Weeks turned into months. Jalen this, Jalen that. Sometimes she'd even text him when she was running late for work and tell me how sweet he was for waiting. One time I asked, half joking, if he was her personal driver now. She just laughed and said, I guess I'm just lucky. I didn't think too hard about it. I trusted her. We were solid, I thought. She still kissed me goodbye in the mornings, still curled up next to me on the couch, still said, I love you. Every night. So I didn't look any deeper. But then came the subtle shifts. She started getting home later than usual. Blamed it on work running over or traffic. Some nights she came in smelling like cologne that wasn't mine. I asked once, and she acted offended, said I was being paranoid and controlling. That was my first real red flag. But I backed off. I didn't want to be that guy. You know, the jealous husband who interrogates his wife over nothing. Besides, she said she loved me. She said I was her rock. Why would she lie? I had no idea what was really going on behind my back, how close she and this guy had actually gotten. That is, until something happened that shattered everything I thought I knew about her. But I'll get to that in the next post. So one Friday afternoon, she told me she was going to a work happy hour. Totally normal. Her company does that sometimes. I asked if she wanted me to pick her up after. She paused and said, No, I'll just Uber like always. Don't worry about it, babe. Okay. She left around 6 p.m., dressed a little nicer than usual. New blouse, tighter jeans. A bit more perfume. Again I noticed, but said nothing. I reminded myself not to be suspicious. I kept trying to push those paranoid thoughts down. But this time, something didn't sit right. Maybe it was how she avoided eye contact when she left. Or maybe it was instinct. So I waited 15 minutes, then opened the Uber app on my phone. We share a family account. She forgot to change her settings, thank God. I checked the recent trips. Sure enough, Jalen had picked her up. Okay. Still not proof of anything. Then, around 10 p.m., I checked again. No return trip. Nothing. She hadn't come home yet, and she hadn't texted me. I tried calling, no answer. I sent a casual, Hey, you okay? Nothing for 20 minutes. That's when my stomach really started to turn. At 10:32 p.m., I finally got a text. Heading home now. Love you. But I watched the app. No ride was requested. Instead of sitting around stewing in silence, I got in my car and started driving toward the bar she said the happy hour was at. But halfway there, I spotted something. Her. On a side street. Standing beside a black SUV with tinted windows. Jalen's car. I recognized the plates from the shared trip history. She wasn't just waiting either. She was leaning into the passenger window, laughing about something. Real flirty. I pulled over half a block away, turned off my lights, and waited. They didn't see me. A minute later, she opened the back door and climbed in. That's when I lost my cool. I pulled up beside the car, got out, and walked straight up to it. My heart was pounding like a jackhammer. I yanked the back door open, and there she was. Straddling him. Shirt half undone. Lips on his neck. His hands were definitely not on the steering wheel. She screamed. Jalen froze. What the F*** are you doing? I shouted. She jumped back like I was a stranger mugging her, and then, this is the part that still drives me insane, she had the audacity to yell at me. Why are you following me? She shrieked. You're crazy! Are you stalking me? Like I was the one in the wrong. I was in shock. I couldn't even speak at first. Just stood there, watching the woman I married twist the entire situation around. She scrambled to fix her shirt and climbed out, screaming something about me being controlling and possessive. Jalen tried to get out too, but I slammed the door shut and told him not to move. I wasn't even thinking straight. I looked at her and said, "We're done. Don't come back." And she laughed. She actually laughed and said, "Good. Maybe now I don't have to pretend anymore." Then she got back in his car. They drove off. I sat down on the curb stunned. I had no words. Just this loud, hollow ringing in my ears and the realization that everything I thought was real was fake. It gets worse, by the way. A lot worse. Because the next day, she came home like nothing happened. So after catching my wife literally straddling Jalen, her precious Uber driver, in the back seat of his SUV, I told her we were done and that she shouldn't come back. But the next morning, she walked through the front door like nothing ever happened. She strolled in wearing her oversized sunglasses and holding a to-go coffee cup like some rom-com side character. Tossed her bag on the counter, looked at me, sitting silently on the couch, and had the gall to say, "Ugh, I forgot how loud you type in the mornings." I said nothing at first. I was too stunned by her complete detachment from reality. Finally, I stood up and said, "Why are you here?" She looked confused, and said, "What do you mean? This is my house too." I reminded her, in very clear terms, what I saw the night before. She blinked, like she needed a second to come up with a story. And then she laughed. Not a nervous laugh. A mocking one. "Oh, that? Wow. You really blew that out of proportion." I kid you not, her actual explanation was, "It was a joke. We were just messing around. He's gay." I stared at her, jaw on the floor. She followed up with, "You're so insecure sometimes. You know I'd never cheat on you. You embarrassed me last night, storming up like that. I had to make up a whole story to calm Jalen down." At this point, I couldn't even be angry. I just felt like I was losing my grip on reality. I said, "You think I didn't see your shirt halfway off? His hands? The way you kissed his neck?" Her response? A fake gasp, followed by, "That's not what you saw. You always twist things. This is why I can't talk to you about anything anymore. You're always so dramatic." And then came the classic line, "If you really loved me, you'd trust me." It was like watching someone rewrite history in real time. I stood there in silence, because what do you even say to that? She stormed off to the bedroom, slammed the door, and refused to come out for hours. I could hear her crying loudly, almost performatively, through the door. Later that day, she emerged like nothing happened and made herself lunch. Hummed while chopping vegetables. I swear to God she actually whistled. I told her again calmly, "I want a divorce." And she lost it. Suddenly it wasn't her fault anymore. No, now I was abandoning her. She called me cruel. Said I was trying to throw away years of love over a misunderstanding. That I was breaking her heart. She called her sister and cried on the phone, loudly and dramatically, telling her that I was acting insane and accusing her of cheating with a driver like some Lifetime movie. She even threw in, "He's probably having a midlife crisis or something." I didn't engage. I just started gathering my things and looking up lawyers. The next morning, she changed tactics again. Brought me coffee, tried to snuggle up next to me on the couch like nothing was wrong. Said, "I know you're upset, but maybe we should go on a weekend trip. Just us." Like a romantic getaway would fix her screwing someone in the back of a rideshare. I told her, "There's no coming back from this." She went cold. "Fine. But don't think you'll get to keep this apartment. Or my car." Yeah. Her car. The one I bought. Next part gets messy. She actually tried to guilt-trip my mom into talking me out of the divorce. That backfired in the most unexpected way. So where were we? Oh right, after I caught my wife, Samantha, literally mid-affair in the back seat of her Uber driver's car and told her I wanted a divorce, she went through the classic cheater's playbook: lie, cry, deflect, gaslight, and pretend like I was the crazy one. But I wasn't ready for her next move, calling my mom to guilt-trip her into convincing me to stay married. Now for context, my mom and I aren't exactly super close. We love each other, but we don't talk every day. She's old school, believes in working things out, and was never a fan of divorce unless it was absolutely necessary. So I get a call from her 2 days after the blow-up. I could already tell by her voice she had no clue what actually happened. "Sweetheart," she said gently, "I just got off the phone with Samantha. She's really upset. She told me you've been distant, that maybe you're overwhelmed and thinking irrationally." I almost dropped my phone. "Mom," I said. "She cheated on me. I caught her. In the back of another man's car. And she lied to my face about it." There was a long silence. "She what?" I repeated myself slower. "Told her everything. Even the part where Samantha tried to claim the driver was gay." My mom didn't say anything for a good 30 seconds, and then she let out this exhausted sigh and said, "She didn't mention any of that." Of course she didn't. And then, and this was the first major unexpected twist, my mom told me she had never liked Samantha. She just kept quiet because she thought we were happy and didn't want to interfere. I always thought she had a nasty little edge to her, she said. The kind of woman who throws a tantrum when the world doesn't go her way. That floored me. My mom always played nice with Samantha. I had no idea she saw through her the whole time. But she wasn't done. She then told me that a week earlier, she'd run into Samantha at the grocery store, and Samantha was not alone. She was with a tall man, younger, wearing joggers and a hoodie. Not Jalen. Someone else. They weren't holding hands or anything, but she said the body language was close. She didn't mention it at the time because, again, she didn't want to make waves. But now it clicked. Samantha wasn't just messing around with Jalen, she was probably playing multiple angles. I hung up and just sat there, realizing how deep this betrayal might go. This wasn't a one-time emotional connection thing. She was actively lying, cheating, manipulating, and trying to spin it into a sob story where she was the victim. And then, she upped the crazy. I came home the next day to find her sitting in the living room with a suitcase at her feet. "I'm moving out," she said dramatically. I nodded. Good. She looked stunned. I think she expected me to beg her to stay. But, she added, "I'm taking the TV. And the guest bed. And the air fryer." I laughed. I actually laughed. "You're taking the air fryer?" She snapped. "I use it more than you." She took half the kitchen, stormed out, and slammed the door behind her. 5 minutes later, she came back because she forgot her charger. "I kid you not," she shouted from the hallway. "Don't think this is over." Spoiler, it's absolutely over. Next part gets wild. I started digging through her old iPad, which she forgot to factory reset. What I found was more than I was ready for. So after Samantha stormed out with my air fryer, the guest bed, and half the kitchen utensils, yes, even the cheap blender we never used, I thought that might finally be the end of the insanity. But then I remembered something. Samantha had an old iPad, one I bought for her a couple years ago, mostly so she could read cookbooks and play Candy Crush. When I walked past her nightstand, there it was, sitting in the drawer like a relic of a time when I thought our marriage was real. Out of curiosity, and maybe a little spite, I turned it on. She hadn't even logged out of her Apple ID. No passcode. Big mistake. First, I opened the Messages app. There wasn't much there. She hadn't used it much recently. But then I checked her Sync Notes app. Jackpot. She had a locked folder labeled Private Red Heart. Guess what? Same password as her phone. Birthday of her first cat. Inside, I found a digital diary of sorts. Notes from months back. Some of them were normal, grocery lists, packing lists, recipes. But then came the real dirt. She had titled some of her notes by date, followed by things like Jalen's hotel room. Need to buy lingerie before Friday. Excuse, say work dinner with Lisa. I sat there frozen, reading line after line of what was essentially a playbook for lying. She'd written out cover stories in advance, practiced lies to tell me, to her coworkers, to friends. Here's one actual entry, copied word for word. If Ryan gets suspicious, just cry. Say he's distant and that you feel alone. Don't mention Jay, obviously. Act mad, not guilty. She planned the manipulation like it was a business meeting. But that wasn't the worst part. There was an entire note called Pros and Cons of Leaving Ryan. Let me summarize the contents. Pros. Freedom. Jalen has better, explicit. No more pretending. Ryan is boring. Cons. Might lose apartment. Divorce lawyers are expensive. Mom would judge. Ryan actually loves me, ugh. Yeah. Ugh. I felt like I got punched in the chest. This woman, the one I built a life with, thought of me like I was some bland background character in her main storyline. Like I was the inconvenience, the placeholder until her fun life started. I closed the iPad. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I didn't throw anything. I just sat there in that hollow, quiet apartment and made a promise to myself. She's never getting another chance to rewrite the truth. I called my lawyer the next morning. Made the appointment. Started documenting everything. But then, of course, Samantha had to take it one step further. 2 days later, I got an alert on my phone. Someone had tried to log into my email from an unknown device. Then I got a text from my bank, an attempted password reset. She was trying to mess with my accounts. She really thought if she couldn't guilt me, she'd just go nuclear. You won't believe what she did when I confronted her about it in front of her sister. It gets unreal. Turns out she had a full-on cheating blueprint stored in her notes app. Play-by-plays, lies she rehearsed, pros and cons. List about divorcing me. Spoiler, she listed Ryan actually loves me, ugh. Under cons. But then she tried to hack into my email and bank accounts. 2 login alerts popped up on my phone within the same hour, both traced to a location 2 blocks from her sister's house, which, surprise surprise, is where she'd been staying. So I called her out. And I didn't do it over the phone. I drove to her sister's house the next evening. Samantha was there, lounging on the patio with a glass of white wine like nothing had happened. Her sister, Melissa, greeted me awkwardly at the door, obviously caught in the middle. I stayed calm, looked Samantha in the eye and said, "You tried to get into my email and my bank. You left a trail. What exactly were you trying to pull?" Her face went blank. Then came the usual defense mechanism, fake outrage. "I would never! That's insane. Why would I even want to do that? You're paranoid." I held up my phone and showed her the login attempt logs. I had the IP address. I had the timestamps. I had proof. Her face dropped for a second. Then she did what she always does when she's cornered. She flipped the script. "Wow. So now you're stalking me? You're tracking where I am?" Melissa, who had been sipping her tea quietly this whole time, suddenly spoke up. "Sam, that's his account. If someone tried to break into mine, I'd want to know too. Why would your location even show up like that?" Samantha shot her a death glare. Like Melissa had just committed some unspeakable betrayal. And then she snapped. "Oh, grow up, Melissa! You always take his side. Just because your marriage failed doesn't mean mine has to." Dead silence. Melissa looked stunned. "You're cheating on him, Sam." And then Samantha did something I will never forget. She stood up, threw her wine glass onto the patio tiles, and screamed. "You all just want me to be miserable like you. I was bored. Okay? I didn't feel alive with him anymore. I needed excitement." Melissa backed away. I just stood there, finally seeing her for who she really was, selfish, entitled, unhinged. I said calmly, "Thanks for the honesty. I'll let my lawyer know you just confessed." She lunged at me, I kid you not, and Melissa had to physically hold her back while she shrieked stuff like, "You're ruining my life!" and "You'll regret this." I walked out. Didn't say another word. The next day, she emailed me, of course she did, with some fake apology and a sob story about being confused and traumatized by my coldness in our marriage. She even said, "I wish you had fought for me. Lady, I caught you in the back seat of a car with your legs around another man. I'm not fighting for that." Oh, and it gets worse. My lawyer called me the following week. Samantha had already hired a divorce attorney, and she was demanding spousal support. Why? Because, in her words, she gave up her career momentum to emotionally support me. We don't even have kids. She works in HR and makes almost as much as I do. I was ready to lose it. But then something happened that gave me the leverage of a lifetime. Guess who reached out to me? Jalen's fiancé. Jalen's fiancé reached out to me. Her name is Tasha. She found me through Instagram. I'd never heard of her before, but her message hit like a brick to the chest. "Hey, I think we need to talk. I believe your wife has been sleeping with my fiancé. His name is Jalen." It took me a second to process. I responded instantly. "She is. I caught them in the act." "Who are you?" She replied with, "I'm his fiancé. We've been together for years. Getting married this fall." My jaw dropped. So I gave her my number, and we got on the phone. What followed was 45 minutes of pure betrayal ping-pong. She had no idea Jalen had been cheating. She'd had her suspicions, sure, but he always brushed them off. Just like Samantha did to me. She told me he'd been working late and doing double shifts with Uber lately. Yeah. Double shifting my wife in the back seat. She said she noticed he always came home wearing new cologne, sometimes with lipstick smudges on his shirt. I literally choked when she said that, because I remember seeing Samantha wear this one obnoxiously bright lipstick she said was too bold for work. Guess it wasn't too bold for Jalen. But here's the kicker, Tasha said she'd confronted Jalen just 2 days before messaging me. He denied everything. She went through his phone, but it was squeaky clean. Why? Because Samantha had taught him how to hide things. No paper trail. No saved messages. He used Snapchat to communicate. Deleted his Uber ride history. Even changed Samantha's contact name in his phone to a dude's name. Mark. Tasha only figured it out when she saw a blurry reflection of Samantha in the car dash cam screenshot Jalen accidentally left open on his iPad. This dude was reckless. So yeah, I shared everything. Screenshots. The iPad notes. Her pros and cons. List. Tasha was in tears by the end of it. I felt bad for her, but also weirdly, relieved. Like I wasn't going crazy. We made a deal. She'd send me any dirt she could find on Jalen, especially if it helped me in court, and I'd do the same for her. She wanted to blow this up, and honestly, I was ready to help her light the match. But wait, it gets better. The next morning, Samantha showed up at my office. She waltzed in like nothing was wrong, in full makeup, high heels, tight dress, doing that fake sweet voice she uses when she wants something. Can we please talk? My coworkers were visibly uncomfortable. I pulled her into the hallway and said, "This is not the place." She actually batted her eyelashes and said, "I miss you." I stared at her like she was on drugs. "You filed for spousal support 3 days ago." She smiled and said, "That was just business. I still love you." I couldn't believe it. The audacity. I said, "I'm working with Jalen's fiancé now. We both know everything." And her smile vanished. She didn't say a word, just turned and walked straight out. 10 minutes later, I got a furious email from her attorney demanding no further contact. Was Samantha outside of legal communication? LOL. She came to me. Anyway, now that I had a partner in chaos, shout out Tasha, we decided to go full nuclear. We weren't just going to expose them, we were going to make them regret every lie they told. Next part, the confrontation dinner. Tasha and I set it up. We invited both cheaters. You will not believe what happened. So we staged a confrontation dinner. Not a trap. Not violent. Just dinner at a neutral restaurant. Tasha texted Jalen and told him she wanted to talk, make peace, maybe rebuild trust. Samantha, predictably, was dying for attention and agreed to come the second I said, "Maybe we can have a mature talk." I made a reservation at a small, quiet bistro. 2 tables were pushed together, candlelight, soft jazz playing. A very normal spot. Nothing dramatic. Until we sat down. Tasha and I arrived first. She was dressed sharp, calm, focused. You could tell she was ready to burn it all down with a smile. Then in came the clowns. Samantha walked in like she was walking a red carpet, dramatic heels, cleavage out, fake shocked expression when she saw me sitting there too. Jalen came in 2 steps behind, looking like he just realized he was in trouble but too dumb to leave. They sat. We said nothing for a few moments. Just stared. Finally I spoke. "So, you two have anything you want to share with the group?" Samantha scoffed. "Oh, this is cute. You two coordinated outfits too?" "We didn't." Jalen shifted in his chair. "What is this?" Tasha answered calmly. "This is closure. This is truth. This is where we stop pretending we don't know what you've both been doing." Samantha immediately rolled her eyes. "Oh my God, this again?" So I pulled out printed screenshots of Samantha's notes app. The Jalen hotel night. The fake story for Ryan. List. The pros and cons of leaving me. Jalen blinked. Tasha pulled out a copy of the Uber dashcam screenshot, the one where you could clearly see Samantha's reflection leaning into the front seat. Jalen's mouth dropped. "Samantha?" She laughed. Like we were all extras in some dark comedy she was starring in. "You guys are insane. You realize that, right? This is harassment," Tasha said. "It's called evidence. And by the way, Jalen, my lawyer will be contacting you. I canceled the wedding. Tell your mom to return my grandma's ring." Boom. Jalen looked like he got hit by a bus. He turned to Samantha and hissed, "You said she knew. You told me this was handled." Samantha threw her napkin on the table. "Oh please. You're pathetic. You were never gonna leave her. I did all the work. You were just along for the ride, literally." Then she looked at me, full deadpan, and said, "So, is this your revenge? A dinner party?" I said, "No. This is me making sure you never get to spin your story again." She stood up, made a dramatic scene, and said something about toxic masculinity and women being punished for exploring themselves. Then stormed out of the restaurant. Jalen, awkward as hell, just followed. Tasha and I? We sat and ordered dessert. Lemon tart never tasted so damn sweet. Afterward, we agreed we were both done. No more revenge. No more games. Just clean legal wins. But then, the plot thickened again. A week later, I got a letter in the mail. From Samantha's lawyer. She wasn't just asking for spousal support anymore. She wanted my retirement fund. Yeah. She was playing long game dirty. But I had one last trick up my sleeve. Because remember that iPad she left behind? Turns out, she synced it to her email. And guess what I found? Receipts. Photos. Voice memos. Even videos. And that's when I knew I was going to win this divorce. By now, you know the story's already pretty insane. I caught my wife cheating with her Uber driver, Jalen. She lied, gaslit, and tried to hack into my accounts. I teamed up with Jalen's ex-fiancée, Tasha, and we confronted them over dinner. They both imploded. But right when I thought I could finally breathe, Samantha tried to drag me back into the mud. She had her lawyer file for spousal support and now, a chunk of my retirement fund. Mind you, we were married 7 years, no kids, and she makes good money herself. But she claimed in her filing that I held financial control, and that she gave up long-term earning potential to emotionally support the household. Yeah. While she was hooking up with her Uber driver in parking lots and hotels. Anyway, after that ridiculous dinner showdown, I remembered something. Samantha never unlinked her old iPad from her email. So I went back in and dug deeper. Let me tell you, it was like finding the motherlode. Not only was her email still syncing, but so were her cloud files. Photos, notes, voice memos, receipts. One folder was literally labeled, "For when I finally leave Ryan Redhart." Inside were dozens of screenshots, DMs between her and other guys. Not just Jalen. 3 others. One of them? A married coworker she claimed she couldn't stand. Another? Some guy she met at her friend's bachelorette party. And the third? A fitness trainer she followed on Instagram. Apparently, she flew to Vegas for a girls' trip last spring and met up with him. Yeah. That trip she swore was just spa days and brunch with her besties. There were photos. And videos. Private, very personal ones. But the worst part? The voice memos. She used to record herself like an audio diary, venting sessions, she called them. I clicked one, dated 3 weeks before I caught her with Jalen. God, Ryan is such a loser sometimes. Like, yeah, he's nice, but he's so safe. It's exhausting pretending to be into it. I need more. I deserve more. Jalen actually sees me. Like, he listens. He touches me like he means it. Ryan's just there. There were dozens of these. Her mocking my job, my clothes, how I laughed. She said my hugs felt like lukewarm oatmeal. And the kicker? I don't even feel guilty anymore. Ryan wouldn't survive a day without me. He'll beg me to stay when he finds out. Beg? No. I was going to bury her case with her own words. I sent the relevant material straight to my lawyer. All of it was legally obtained. She never revoked access, never logged out, never updated passwords. And she used our shared account to store it. Idiotic. My lawyer's response? Let's just say she's not going to like how this ends. But guess what Samantha did when her lawyer got the files? She called me. Of course. Crying. Screaming. Accusing me of violating her privacy. I said, "You didn't violate your own privacy when you recorded yourself dragging my name through the dirt?" She hung up. Then Tasha texted me. "You may want to check Samantha's Insta story." I opened it. She'd posted a selfie with the caption, "When you realize toxic people can't control you anymore, nail polish, #freewoman, #watchmyglow up." The next story? A boomerang of her holding a champagne glass with the text, "Divorcing a narcissist is self-care." The one after that? A vague tweet about being targeted and stalked by men who can't handle empowered women. I laughed so hard I nearly dropped my phone. She was trying to spin the narrative, again. Paint herself as the empowered survivor while I was, what? A controlling monster who dared to check the tablet she left behind? She wanted war. I was going to give her a courtroom reality check. But here's where things took another turn. Jalen messaged me. Not Tasha. Not Samantha. Jalen. And you'll never believe what he said. From Jalen. At first, I thought it was fake. Like maybe Samantha was using his account to bait me. But nope, it was him. His message? "Yo man. Can we talk?" I didn't know everything. I think she played both of us. I literally just stared at it for a second, then laughed. Oh, now he wanted to talk? After wrecking my marriage and pretending I didn't exist when I yanked open his car door and found him underneath my wife? I ignored the message. 3 hours later, he messaged again. "Not trying to start drama. Just think you should know what she's saying about you to other people." Now that got my attention. I replied. "Like what?" He answered fast. Almost like he'd been waiting. "She's telling people you cheated first. That you were abusive. Controlling. That she stayed with you out of fear." I just about spit out my coffee. I asked him, "Why would you even care now?" His reply. "Because she's doing the same thing to me now. It's like she flipped overnight. I tried ending it and she lost it. She showed up at my apartment and threatened to tell my boss I harassed her during rides unless I kept seeing her. You ever read something and suddenly feel vindicated and nauseous at the same time? Turns out, Jalen was never in love with her. It was a casual fling that got out of hand. He knew she was married but said, "She made it seem like your marriage was already dead." Classic. But now that Samantha was exposed, she was spiraling. He said she had called him 15 times in one night, left crying voicemails, and even sent him screenshots of our divorce papers to prove she was doing it for him. His words, "I made mistakes. But she's unstable, bro. I didn't sign up for this mess. I asked if he'd be willing to say any of this in writing, or in court. He said, honestly? Yeah. I want her out of my life. That was all I needed. I forwarded his messages to my lawyer. The same day, my lawyer filed an amendment to our divorce response, no spousal support, citing infidelity, emotional cruelty, and harassment, with attached evidence from both Samantha's iPad and Jalen's confession. The legal tides were turning hard in my favor. But then Samantha, realizing her mask was slipping, made a desperate move. She showed up at my parents' house. Unannounced. Crying. Hysterical. Holding some old photo album of our wedding and begging them to help fix things. Claimed she was lost without me, and that she made a huge mistake. My mom told her point blank, Ryan's not a doormat. And we're not fools. My dad, he didn't even get off the couch. She left sobbing. I found out about the visit when my mom texted me. She's unraveling. Stay smart. 2 days later, a friend of mine sent me a screenshot of a Facebook post Samantha made in some private group for women surviving toxic marriages. In it, she wrote this ridiculous sob story about finding strength to walk away from years of emotional neglect, being villainized by a controlling partner, and how she was reclaiming her story. I didn't respond. I didn't comment. I didn't need to. Because in less than a week, we had the preliminary divorce hearing. She walked into court dressed like she was heading to a funeral, all black, fake tears ready. Her lawyer tried to paint her as a wronged and unsupported wife. Then my lawyer handed the judge a file labeled Exhibit A, Digital Evidence of Infidelity and False Narratives. You know what the judge said? Ma'am, I suggest you reconsider your demands. The evidence here does not support your claims. Her face? Pale. Frozen. Humiliated. And it's not even over yet. Next part, what happened after court? Because Samantha wasn't done. No, she had one last chaotic card to play. So, the preliminary hearing went down exactly how I hoped. My lawyer laid out all the evidence, Samantha's claims got shot down, and the judge made it clear her demands were baseless. But you know Samantha, she's nothing if not persistent, and utterly unhinged. The day after court, I got a flood of texts, emails, and even a voicemail from her that was borderline hysterical. She was threatening to expose me, telling me she had dirt on me that no one knew about. She even said she was going to ruin my reputation and make sure I never see my friends or family again. I blocked her number, but the messages kept coming from different accounts. Then came the craziest part. One afternoon, I was at work when my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Meet me at the park tonight. 8 p.m. Come alone. Or you'll regret it. I thought it was a prank at first. But then I got a second message, a photo of my car parked outside my apartment. That's when I knew Samantha was escalating. I told my lawyer immediately. He advised me to report it to the police and get a restraining order if necessary. I did both. At the same time, Tasha and I stayed in touch. She was dealing with her own harassment from Jalen, who'd become just as unstable as Samantha after they broke off. We agreed to be each other's support system through this nightmare. Meanwhile, Samantha's attempts to discredit me online kept ramping up. She created fake social media accounts to spread lies, that I was abusive, controlling, and mentally unstable. Friends reached out to check if I was okay. It was exhausting. It was humiliating. But I stayed focused on the bigger picture, the divorce. During the next hearing, Samantha's lawyer requested mediation. My lawyer agreed, but only on the condition Samantha stops all harassment immediately. Surprisingly, she agreed. Mediation was tense. Samantha alternated between playing the victim and throwing subtle digs. But when my lawyer presented the mountain of evidence, her own notes, messages, the recordings, she wilted. Eventually, she dropped her demands for spousal support and agreed to a fair split of assets. No custody issues to complicate things, thankfully. The divorce was finalized 2 months later. Walking out of that courtroom alone was surreal. I felt relief, sadness, rage, and finally freedom. Samantha? I haven't seen or heard from her since. Sometimes I wonder what she's up to now, if she's still spinning lies, or if reality finally caught up. But one thing's for sure. I'll never let anyone make me doubt my worth again.